Kenosis 5. Has the Immaculate Virgin Mary been cleansed? Has the Virgin Mary, the Immaculate, gone through purgatory? The question as I pose it will make some say, but it is obvious that not, since it is all pure, it is immaculate, it is full of grace, it does not need to be purified. In fact, if I ask this question, it is good to show how much the question of purgatory is a fundamental question of the Catholic faith. It is not, I would say, an invention of the Middle Ages, but something that touches our destiny itself and even the fate of the Immaculate. Mary, we know in our faith, has received the same grace as Eve. But she was faithful completely, she never sinned, always turned towards God, yet attacked by the demon who said to him like a dream, "Look, you can do nothing, become independent, open your eyes, be master of the good and difficulty." She never followed, and she is the only person in the history of humanity who has never followed such temptation. She was therefore all humble, all obedience to God, of an obedience that resembles that which Adam and Eve should have kept. And yet this did not stop here, it did not remain with this form of purity. Jesus Christ by the Holy Spirit took her to a deeper purity, the one that gives a broken heart, a heart pierced by a sword of pain, the one that gives suffering, and that allowed him, she, who has made herself very small, all her life, to become, I would say, a kind of principle with Christ which points us to the path to eternal holiness. There have been many stages of her purification, but overall they can be summarized to what happened on Holy Saturday and Good Friday when she saw her Son crucified. And on Holy Saturday, when she was in silence, she alone believed, and everyone was gone, everyone had left her Son. The intimate suffering she experienced, she was not crucified, but she lived through all the inner sufferings that one can imagine, transformed her heart, into the innocence that he had in a heart broken, a humiliated mind, someone who knows what despair is. It will be said, but she was not desperate, it would be a sin. She knew the night of the Spirit, it is not a sin, it is a test. It has nothing to do with voluntary despair, a sort of revolt against God, or even the desperation of poor people who do not know what they are doing on earth. She is something else. But whatever the definition of this suffering, his heart has been changed. She was not the same after. If anyone wants to understand that, well, just look, ask a person who has experienced some form of desperation, a form of serious depression. She cannot be the same after that before, and that new purity that adds to her former purity has made her different. Why now? Why did she have to go through this? And then it continued with the years when she lived the Eucharist, with the presence of Jesus who had disappeared. To the point that she, the Immaculate according to Pope John Paul II, she died of it at a given moment, indicating where she went. Well, Jesus indicates the reason for the necessity of this purification. If the grain of wheat fallen in the earth does not die, it remains alone, but if it dies, it bears a lot of fruit. To see God face to face, such a God infinite in power and so small, so humble in his Trinitarian life, well, we must become kenosis, poor in heart, a broken heart, a humiliated spirit. It digs in us abysses where God can lodge. And if we do not have this poverty of heart, we cannot see God face to face. That is why the Virgin Mary herself, and as I said in the previous video, Christ himself, the Word made flesh, knew purgatory. Not the one who passes from sin to purity, but the one who passes from a purity of obedience to the purity of a broken heart, of a humbled, all humble spirit.